Hey friends, happy Monday. Wow. Do you know something about the goodness of God? The goodness of God actually leads us into the land of the devil, into the land of the evil one, the land where giants are. The interesting thing is, the minute I determine to surrender my life to God, the minute I determine not my will but yours be done, God will lead us into places where the enemy is active in our lives. And sometimes it can feel like all of a sudden, in fact, I've heard people say that, oh, I'm afraid to share a testimony on church on Sunday because then the devil gonna come for me. Or I'm afraid to, as soon as you start doing something for Jesus, the enemy gonna come for you. What if it's the other way around? What if it's rather the enemy who's afraid, it's the enemy who's being threatened, it's the enemy who's getting his lunch money taken? What if it's actually that God is, now that you have surrendered to him, he can now lead you into the very areas of your life where you've been held captive, whether in your finances, whether in your desires, whether you're in anxiety, in your relationships, in your addictions. What if instead that the reason why when you turn your life over to God, things start to fall apart is because they were held together by dysfunction. They were held together by sin. They were held together through worshiping the enemy, worshiping fear, rather than fearing God and living. What if your surrender to God is causing those parts of your life that are held together in a wrong way to come apart so that God can set us free? Guys, what if, think about this. God could have blocked the enemy out of the garden, but he said to the woman, he said, even in her sin, he said to Eve, he said, he'll bite your heel, but you'll crush his head. Listen, remember Caleb? Caleb, who had seen the worst of Canaan, he said, I want the place where the biggest baddies are. Why? Because they guard the biggest treasure. What if, when the enemy is being riled up in your life, it is a sign of his destruction? What if it's a sign of that he is about to be taken captive? What if, and that's why Caleb was like, don't touch my giants. I want that land. What if the size of the enemy you're facing is the sign of the victory that you are promised? What if instead of backing off in fear like the Israelites did, remember the other spies, not Caleb and Joshua, the other spies were like, no, and they ran back into the wilderness. Too often that's been the story of my life. But what if instead we flipped the script and we said, no, they've been given to us as food to eat. This is our victory. God leads us in his triumph. What if instead of thinking to ourselves, like David often did and it went bad, we instead, like David did, inquire of the Lord and say, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to do in this situation? This morning, I faced a situation that I didn't know was going on in my life that just, oh my gosh, it felt like the bottom was falling out, felt like everything was horrible, felt like the enemy was attacking on fire, and I was tempted to revert to old patterns of running around, fixing it myself, solving it myself, running around, trying to be, I don't know what, do it myself. But I inquired of the Lord. I've learned a little something that I'm not smart that way. I inquired of the Lord, what do you want me to know? And he said, first of all, do nothing. In returning and rest is your salvation, is the way Isaiah put it. I did nothing. I just said, Lord, what do you want me to know? And every time a thought would come up in my head, I say, God, what do you want me to know about that? And time again, he's like, that's your old way of responding. That's you trying to solve it. Those are the lies of the enemy. And I would just throw them out. And eventually, the tide of sewage in my brain, the tide of those dark thoughts, the tide of fear, tide of the enemy dissipated. And I heard God, and God said, now you're ready to partner with me. First of all, this is thing that you've just discovered has been going on for a very long time. But you've only now can become aware of it because there's grace to deal with it. This is your moment of excitement, not of fear. You didn't know about it, but now you do. So okay, God, what do you want me to know about it? He's like, I am moving, and it's too small a thing for me just to bring victory in this area. I'm after a much bigger victory. And then he began to show me the bigger victory he wants to bring, and I started to get excited. I started to become passionate. I started to dream. The very place where I was convinced everything was horrible, everything was going bad, I was a horrible person, everything else was bad, suddenly now I have a hope and a future, and I'm dreaming. Guys, what if when the devil shows up in your life, it's a sign of his destruction? Just saying. Well, guys, I love you all so much. So grateful for each of you. Bless each of you, especially those of you who shared testimonies in church yesterday. Wow, so good. Listen, those testimonies were real. The things you said were true. The ground you've taken is massive, but it's just the beginning. And if the enemy is showing up in your life today, it's because you got him on the run. Love you guys so much. Take care.